Hello, Steve. Hello, Jill. It's time to game classy.
Hello.
Hello, I've already started recording. I'm fancy this time.
Yeah, I saw there was a prompt that told me you were recording before I joined.
They're recording. Don't say anything racist.
Yeah, well, I mean they have to legally do that, but also true.
Yes, don't let your accidental racism slip out.
Yes, accidental.
Well, that's in America we only punish the people who are who do the racism out loud. The people who keep the racism quiet are okay.
You gotta get caught, and you gotta have not enough money. That's how you get punished in America.
No. That's not necessarily true, because there's lots of rich people who have gotten in trouble, but they're not like old money racism and old money rich. They're like Hollywood rich, like Mel Gibson or Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is they didn't have enough money.
Well, I mean, because if you do an accidental racism, that's and you got a lot of money, it's sometimes you could scooch.
Yeah. Also, possibly someone with more money didn't like them, and if someone has more money than you lose.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, it's like war, like the card game war.
I mean, it is like that fucking. I mean, the most famous case of it's Farmer Bro. Like, nothing bad was going to happen to that guy until rich people figured out that he was playing with their money, and they were like, "Wait a minute!" And suddenly, bam, he's in jail.
It's very, very true.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome to Game Classy, where it's how did they describe us? They said that we are are we woke trash fires? I think that's what we were called sometimes.
I missed that, but that's funny.
Yes. I've been specifically called a trash fire. So
I missed the woke part, but that's good. We're so woke.
We are a woke podcast of 40-year-old men.
Yeah, 40-year-old white men. Thank you.
40-year-old white men. Yes. We're the most woke people out there.
It's true.
I'm so woke. I almost killed a person on the expressway the other day, because I drive the expressway every day for work, and on my way home, there's this really bad interchange where one expressway turns into another expressway, and it's always tight, right? People are always bumper to bumper, and there's a lot of crazy people out there. Anyway, I'm usually pretty good at navigating it. A guy kind of pulls out in front of me, not like cuts me off or anything like that, but definitely, he saw me coming and kind of scooched in. And you know what he did, Steve? You know what he did? Full stop on the expressway to try and merge through the lane on his right. Full stop on the expressway. I almost got out of my car and killed him.
That's how those giant pileups happen.
That's pretty much what it was. It was bad. I wanted to kill him very badly.
Yeah, I mean, clearly that guy does not value his life if he's willing to come to a complete stop.
Yeah. I was furious. I still think about it. This was 2 days ago.
Yeah, I mean, you had to get that out.
Yes.
Cars terrify me, and drivers terrify me even more.
Yeah. Well, you have become a recluse, so.
Hey, I'll go anywhere I can run, baby.
Yeah, that's still technically a recluse.
I can run far.
I'm not saying you're a classical recluse. I'm just saying you're a recluse.
Cool. I could be like the active guy in the woods.
The active,
the guy who in the film you see me outside like with an axe, and then like you don't see me again, but like I was outside. I'm not the creepy guy in the house. You're
a suburban hermit is what you are.
Ooh, a suburban.
There you go. All right, so let's talk about some. Yes, we are Game Classy, and this is the worst podcast about gaming ever existed, because we kind of rarely talk about games and anything other than a passing fact. And go,
I believe we were declared the best worst podcast.
We are the best worst podcast out of all of like the worst podcasts about gaming, or just podcasts like where you see like 3 up-and-coming comedians, up-and-coming in quotes, sitting on like a black couch with like microphones in front of them. They're all slouching down.
They've been up and coming for 20 years.
Yeah. and then they give their impressions on something, and they're like, "What? You didn't know that Abraham Lincoln was a real person?"
Why do they sound like they're from Clueless?
Because, well, that's how all young people talk nowadays. You didn't know that?
I didn't. I know this. I know the slang, but I don't. I only read the text. I don't hear them talk. So I know about like I know all about Last Rismus and like the Gat, the Rizzler. I know all the words, Joe.
So, as a person who regularly works with Zoomers and kids that are younger than Zoomers, I will tell you that all that slang that people are talking about for Zoomer slang is like maybe 5% of their total way of speaking. Like it's they barely ever say anything like that. And
telling me that they're not constantly throwing out their Gat for the Rizzler.
Yeah, I have never heard the word Riz really used more than like twice. I mean, like this has to be something that's going on in one specific place, like New York City. Like that's where people are talking like this, because in my life I have never.
And then it spreads. No, that makes sense.
But I mean, even in the spreading, I think it's more like ironically spreading, like older people.
That's the thing, though. Is I've determined that I now firmly believe that because of social media like poisoning our society, the way that things spread now is rather than them like spreading organically, like I don't know, like the word cool.
Yeah.
It's always something awful, because like you hear like a phrase like sticking out your gat for the Rizzler, and you're just like, that is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. And then you start using it ironically, and then other people start using it ironically, and then after a certain amount of time the irony fades and people just say unironically sticking out their gat for the Rizzler.
So like when I say what's up, brah?
Yeah, using bra. Like bra was like I remember that like bra was ironic to not ironic, but now it's fallen out. And then the final arc, of course, for all of these is they fall out of favor.
Yes. My favorite currently is my youngest son, or my youngest child, my son. He goes around and you know what he does? He does the Charlie Brown ugh. He literally puts the G at the end of so it's ugh. And I'm like, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty great.
Yes. So yes, back to being the best worst podcast ever, where fingers are on the pulse of gaming news. So what you got in gaming news? No, I
do have some gaming news.
Oh, what's your gaming news?
I got three or two pieces of gaming news.
What's that?
The first is that the Battletech Mercenaries box set is coming soon, like to actual retail. So that'll be cool.
Get your big blocky robots.
The big blocky robots, and then some that look really cool, and you're like, why do these robots look so much cooler than all the other robots in Battletech? It's like, oh, it's because they stole those from Robotech. It's like, oh, okay, nice. Now I understand why these look so good.
Yep. It's probably the only thing that bothers me about Battletech. I mean, in reality, is just that I think that the mechs are so. The majority of mechs are so bad.
Yeah, they're all over the place. Which I mean,
so I'm gonna be generous. I'm gonna be generous on this, Steve. I will say at least minimum 50% of mechs are bad.
My problem with the mechs is actually is a bit different. I think I'm a bit more generous. Also, I think that the mechs they've revised the design, so a lot of the mechs that look really horrible don't look as bad as they used to. Yeah. But aside from that, let's pass on that. The biggest issue with Battletech for me personally is that a lot of the mechs look very, like, whether or not they're bad or good, they look very similar. So I have I'm looking at like that's the thing, like Battletech is a very weird through line for its design, because mechs either look completely different, like they don't have anywhere near the close to the same profile, or they look almost fucking identical.
Yeah,
and that bugs me.
My thing is why would you want to play with Battletech or Robotech when you could play with Exo Squad?
I mean, dude, I would fucking play the shit out of an Exo Squad minis game. Are you kidding? Like, absolutely. Exo Squad's great. Exo Squad's fantastic.
The best thing about an Exo Squad mini game is you don't really need like Exo Squad minis. You could just use Exo Squad figures, your toys.
That's true.
If they weren't so expensive.
And then you got to have deep philosophical commentary about a cartoon that's mostly going to be watched by 7-year-olds.
Yep.
I mean, it really does. Like I went back and I actually not. I mean, I guess it was kind of long ago. Like it was like 5 or 6 years ago. But I actually went back and rewatched all of Exo Squad.
Yeah, it's
very good.
It's the European front of World War II.
It's really good. Like what the fuck? I did not realize how good it. Like obviously, I loved it as a kid because it was cool.
Well, isn't that what it was like designed to be the the European front of World War II, while Robotech was supposed to be the Pacific?
Well, Robotech was like a cobbled together.
Or the original Macross. Let's put it that way.
The original Macross was just like I don't really know if it was designed as anything specific, because the original Macross, it's alien versus humans. There's like an alien invasion.
Yes.
I don't know if it was designed after anything specifically like that, but I don't know.
Speaking of, have you watched Godzilla -1?
I have not seen it yet, but I have heard it is just like fucking incredible.
I've watched some of it. It's very good. It's not very Joe, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little, but I think that has more to do with that's more of a cultural thing. There's
just not a Godzilla fan.
I'm not a Godzilla fan, but it's not like I dislike Godzilla. I'm very Godzilla neutral.
You could be you don't have to be a fan of just because you're not a fan of something doesn't mean you dislike it.
I'm Godzilla agnostic.
Godnostic.
Zillagnostic. Agzilla? Whatever. But when I was watching it, it's very good, but a lot of the humans, it's very human focused. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that human focus is I don't culturally understand it. Like I can watch it and be like, oh, okay, I get what they're doing here, but it's like it's so foreign to me that I have trouble identifying with the characters. Does that make sense?
Okay. No, I got you. Well, I mean, because it's probably, I assume it would be written from a Japanese perspective.
Oh, 100%. It's very post-war Japan dealing with a lot of their trauma, just like the original Godzilla.
This is true.
Yeah. But this is like the remake, right? Like if anything, like if you would consider this like this is a remake of the original. I don't know. I didn't see Raymond Burr sweating at all in it. I can't really say if it's a remake of the original. There was no fat guy going, "We're doing all we can do." Or it's like you see a bunch of Japanese people talking, and then you cuts to a lone guy in a separate room going, "Yes." But yeah, I could see you really liking it. I've seen Shin Godzilla, which is the one where it's mostly about it's the one that was released a few years ago.
Yeah, the one that's about incompetent politicians.
Yes, I kind of like that one quite a bit. That one was fun.
One too. Yes. There's a bunch of incompetent politicians going like, well, we need to come up with a committee to figure out what's going on here.
Yep.
And I was great because I was talking to one of my friends who lives in Japan, and he was like, yeah, he's like, yeah, that's right. He's like, yep. He's like, absolutely. Like that is 100% how it would be in Japan. Like there would be a crisis, and there'd have to be like 10 special committees made. And he's like, eventually they'd probably get it handled, but man, it would take a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, Japan is like the ultimate the ultimate red tape country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could, yeah, that makes sense.
He's like he says the one good thing is though, is like when they say they're going to do something, they do it. It just takes forever. I was like, all right. Like things rarely get like with the Japanese government, things rarely go up in like vapor, but actually getting it to the point where like they're going to go forward with it is a thing.
Yeah, I mean, like you always see that on Reddit or TikTok where they're like, this Japanese road was collapsed during an earthquake. Look how long it took to fix it. And then it's like a time lapse that takes like 3 hours and they fix the entire road.
Oh, well, yeah, infrastructure wise, like they're unmatched. It's just like, oh, it's broken, fix it.
But yeah, but I need the TikTok the robot voice to tell me what's going on. That's
very good. But and you said the most important part of the BattleTech launch is there's actually now going to be some vehicles you can buy, which is great because the vehicles in BattleTech are useful and are kind of, I don't want to say like hard, but like annoying to get.
Are they how many of them are dune buggies?
I don't think they have small infantry sized vehicles other than elementals, which
these are big vehicles.
Well, they're like tanks and planes and stuff.
So no dune buggies.
I don't think so. I mean, they have the elementals, which is essentially Exo Squad. So I mean, they have that, but no dune buggies. No, they cannot go on the dune buggy planet.
I keep on like wanting to do the Exo Squad theme, and it keeps coming out in my head as the theme from Cops. So
Cops.
Cops.
Fighting crime in a future time. Cops. Yeah, occasionally there's a guy just saying cops.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
Oh, and the other bit of news is the new Magic set. Coming up soon, Murders at Karlov Manor has a couple big changes. The first is, so I mean, I'm sure you don't know this, but a while back, they changed Magic booster boxes where they had draft booster boxes and then they had set booster boxes.
Ooh.
So the idea being that a draft booster box is what you would buy to play, and a set box is what you would buy to open. So the way that the packs were configured and like a whole bunch of stuff was different. Like that's like that's the elevator pitch. But the problem is like for stores, distributors, even players, like everyone was like, what do I buy? Like which one am I supposed to buy? Like I don't get it. And then they produced too much draft, not enough set. Then they produced too much set, not enough draft. Then they produced not enough of either. Then they produced too much of both. So like it caused a lot of problems for many people. Player side, retailer side, distribution side. Everyone had problems with this double SKU idea because it was, you're in the reads, like nobody knows what the fuck it is. So that's been a very obnoxious thing that's been going on for like about 2 years, the double SKU. So what they finally done, starting with this set, is they've now released something they're calling the Play Booster, which is essentially in the middle of these two things. So the reason that you couldn't draft with a set booster is set boosters had a little grouping of cards that kind of went together. And it was like basically the long and short is like you couldn't, the way they're configured, it just doesn't work. Now, yeah, I mean, I don't want to. I could it would take too long to explain it. Like,
yeah, you're already losing me. I'm like, okay, so who's on first?
So the Play Booster now is designed to be something that's fun to open and also play with. So that's a big change. Now, aside from all of that, the actual set looks very, very cool. And I'm actually kind of excited about what they have this thing. So it's Murders at Karlov Manor, and it's a whodunit mystery themed set. Like it's actually about a murder, and like there's mystery and like solving mechanics in the set. Now the thing that's really cool about this is there's Cluedo. There's a Cluedo edition of this set. Like there's a box. It is Ravnica.
To our American listeners, that's Clue.
Yes, correct. There's also a version that's just called Clue.
Is there wait, hold on. What?
There's also a version that's just called Clue.
There's a version that's called Clue, and there's a version that's called Cluedo.
Yeah, it was when the images spoiled said Cluedo. So that they were like when there's Magic spoilers, there's always stuff that's in other languages.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Well, I like how it's another language, yet it's just UK English.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. It's other. I should have said other regions. The American region will just be called Ravnica Clue Edition.
Well, yeah, Mr. Green in America, he's Reverend Green, I believe, in the UK.
That makes
Parson
sense.
Green.
Oh, Parson Green, like Parson Brown. Okay, so it's like it looks like a fat pack. Or a bundle, which is something that has a bunch of boosters in it, except it's not. It has these weird packs called Ravnica Clue Edition. and you actually shuffle 2 packs and play, and it's literally playing a murder mystery, but it uses magic cards. Like it's an actual fusion of the 2 games. So like it is a fully functional game of Clue, the card game variant, and Magic. It's very interesting looking, and I think that'll be an exciting. I think that box itself will be really, really good for anyone. Even if you're not like if you're actively playing Magic, if you're not actively playing Magic, I think it would be a very fun little like game to put on your shelf, like as a board game, to believe it or not. But yeah, so because it has 8 of the special edition boosters, but also it's designed to be replayable. So presumably they will have some sort of way to like reshuffle the cards after you've opened them to like play again. So I don't know. It looked really cool.
Hey, I love a murder mystery. What can I say?
That's it. That's my gaming news. I'm done.
All right. I mean, it's always good because we usually put the Magic stuff at the end of the podcast. We're like, and new Magic done.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I actually had like some commentary in this one. Well, normally it is just, hey, it's new Magic.
Yeah.
No, this one actually
I was just sitting back. I was enjoying it. I was like, interesting. Yes. I don't know if people were waiting for my little interstitials like that, but yes. But other stuff that you do like is that you find interesting is they talked about Old World. They got the psychology and the magic up finally.
Yeah. I mean, yes. I can't say yes enough. Like,
which one do you want to talk about first, magic or psych?
Magic, I guess.
Okay. Well, yeah, magic is I really like how they're doing magic now. Is that now it's like you roll 2 dice, add your power level instead of having power dice, which I think is much better.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It's literally the War of the Rings style.
Yes, which is super important, and because you're doing stuff in each phase, it's a lot more. Magic's going to be a lot more useful. There's a proximity component for miscast and for dispels, which I think is interesting.
Yep. Yeah, and there's no bookkeeping with how many power dice you have, dispel dice, etc., which is good.
Yeah, and the best part of it all is that if you you dispel you go to dispel spell your enemy spell and you roll your 2 dice and you get double ones, you know what it's called?
Oh, I know, but I want you to say it.
It's called being outclassed in the art.
That's right. You've been outclassed.
It's just anytime you could say that to an opponent in a game, even though how slim the opportunity is, because you probably have like, I don't know, maybe 20 spells that you might be able to put off during the game in this edition, it looks like. And if you put off that many spells, I mean, getting double ones is going to be kind of rare. It's 1 in 36, but there's a possibility you're going to roll that. And so, or that's if you're dispelling at every spell option. Mm-hmm. And if you do, though, you could just say to your opponent, looks like you've been outclassed in the art, and you put on your sunglasses, fart in their face, and drive away on your motorcycle. Badass.
Outclassed.
Yes. Looks like you've been outclassed. You just drive off. Yes. So it's really fun. And they do have they brought back the miscast table, but I think it's just the way that they streamline magic that really piques my boils my potato. How about that?
Yeah, I like it. I'm fully endorsed, fully approved. I want it. I want it now.
And it looks like magic resistance is probably going to be a bigger thing in this edition.
I mean, I could see that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just in my head, I'm seeing because of the way that they're doing the special rules. I think everything's going to have a lot more special rules, and I think magic resistance is going to be a bigger one for a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of that. Like I've said before, one of the things I like the most about Age of Sigmar is that, like, yes, technically there's a lot of rules in Age of Sigmar, but and I think 40K has shifted to this too, because I mean, from what I've heard, the new edition is very close to Age of Sigmar, which I mean, that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned. There's a lot of rules, but you don't need to know them because everything is specifically attached to the unit. So like you don't need to, like, you know, there's like, I don't know, 30 different war scrolls from Stormcast. You as a player, even as a Stormcast player, you do not need to know all those war scrolls. Like you just don't, because it's not something that's going to appear in every game. It's not like when they add like a new universal rule like over and over, and then there's tons of universal rules, and you have like that's Magic's issue. Magic issue has like so many keywords. You could technically have a card that's just a bunch of words on it, and like if someone is not very familiar with Magic, they'll be like, it's incomprehensible. So yeah, having it attached to the unit rather than in the army book, I like that a lot more.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're kind of doing with what's it called, with Horus Heresy is a lot like that too.
Okay, yeah, I mean that's good. It's less brain burden, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. So this is a really good segue, even though I do want to talk about the psychology rules a little bit. But man, I got my copy of the Legions Imperialis rule book.
Oh yeah, you were not impressed, if I remember correctly.
It's holy shit. That is the most. Okay, so it is a lot of rules for a side game for Games Workshop, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's not one of the main games. This is not Horus Heresy. This is not Age of Sigmar. This is not 40K. This is epic. It is a side game for the company. And the rule book is 237 pages, and out of those 237 pages, probably 100 of those are rules. There are a lot of rules in this book, and I gotta say, it's not impressive either. It's not impressive rules, because you know why, Steve? They left out half of the Space Marine like arsenal. You don't have rules for land raiders. You don't have rules for bikes. You don't have rules for speeders. You don't have rules for jet bikes. All of that's like, there's no rules for any of that.
Wonderful.
Like they left out half of the stuff that a Space Marine like player would want. Like, you know, that guy who's like, oh, I can't wait to paint up my Legions Imperialis as white scars and do a white scars army. Mm-hmm. Oh, I can't do motorcycles. Well, that's fun.
Well, so much for that.
Yeah, you can customize. Like they've been showing all this stuff. Like you could customize your army in any way. They showed these big spreads in White Dwarf where like, this is a 3,000 point army, and this is all you're gonna need. Look at all these cool drop pods. Oh, drop pods sound fucking awesome. Let me go look in the rule. Wait, no drop pods. Okay. No. It's gonna come later as DLC. Well, I just I wanted to use those in my army that I'm building, but I guess this is okay.
No deal.
I guess. No, there's no Spartan land raiders. It's like there's nothing. It's like half the Space Marine army. The only rules that they have are the stuff that's in currently the book, mm-hmm. or in currently the box, and anything mm-hmm. that's been released for the airplane game and Titan game.
I see.
Because those models already exist.
Right.
So that's the reason why those are in the rule book.
I could see that.
And that game of Horus Heresy where it's Marine versus Marine, I'm glad the second army they give you in that box is the Solar Auxilia, because man, it's so great to have that in there. To simulate all those battles that they were in those cool books that we've all been reading. I think the Solar Auxilia have been in like 2 books, maybe one, maybe a half a book. Yes, instead of giving you 2 Marine forces so that you could combine them together to make your own army, which would be smart.
Well, see, yeah, no, that's why you got to buy the extras, so because they know you're gonna army transport the Marine half and leave the Imperial Guard on the sprues.
I mean, seriously, it's like, and they wonder why like 3D printing has taken off so much.
I don't think they wonder that. I think they know damn well.
They know damn well, yeah. Right. Yes. So that's the rule. There's and the stuff that they do have in there. There's so many rules for it. That makes it super complicated. It's not like the army list rules are complicated. It's like the entire like how to play the game that gets like really nitty gritty in this book. Mm. It's one of those things like, if you do this, then blah, blah, blah. But if this happens, blah, blah, blah. But you have to make sure you're measuring from here, but not from here. And it's just like, oh, my God.
That sounds really annoying.
It's a little obnoxious, and there's a lot of terrain rules, which are also kind of obnoxious. It's just like this is a game that's
You haven't sold me on this game.
No, I haven't sold it on myself. If I did not have like the ability to just print off models just to paint for fuckies, I would probably not even sniff at this game. But I'm interested in it because I do have someone I know who's playing it, and I already have some figures printed out, so might as well just give it a try. But yes, it's very fucky. Not a huge fan of it.
Yeah, it sounds terrible.
Yeah, it's definitely the game should have been a lot speedier, and I was hoping that the rules would be a lot more like the flying game or Titan game, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what I want. That's what I want in my Epic game, where I'm using tons and tons of models. I want the slowest and most bogged down rule set possible.
That's exactly it. It's like it's so bogged down. It's literally like playing 40K on a smaller scale, and it's just like, oh, this is too much. And not even like fast 40K. It's like fifth ed 40K on a massive scale.
This pretty bad.
Yeah, and it would have made more sense just to put out all Marines in the box and just not even worry about the Imperial Guard stuff. Just said, here's all of the Marine stuff. Just play with Marines until this other stuff comes out.
Yeah, I mean,
But
they also could make a fast rule set too. So
yeah, a fast play rule set, because I would say that until like you have the one person who plays 40K and like, I would like to play Eldar for 30K. Okay, are you going to pay for all of these models? No.
I mean, my stance on it. I think if you're going to do Epic, you should do it right. But yeah. I think Epic is better than having it as Horse Heresy. But I get why they went Horse Heresy, because it's less cost.
Oh, it's way less cost. And in truth, no one plays Eldar. No one plays the Dark Eldar. No one plays Tau.
That's because in Epic, those armies were all prohibitively fucking expensive because you couldn't.
No, I'm just saying in 40K even, like, no one's gonna play the Tau in 40K. Come on.
At least two people.
You're gonna play the Marines and you're gonna like it.
At least two people play Tau in 40K.
Listen here, Jack. There's only one army in 40K, and that's Space Marines.
Actually, the real answer to the one army in 40K is whatever the newest codex is. You're wrong.
There's only one army in 40K, and that's Space Marines. And as soon as I learn how to open up the PDF for the Space Marines, Jack,
I was going to say,
your butt.
There's only one army, and it's the newest one because it's the best.
Now, you are 100% correct in that, sir.
Yeah.
Yes. So I would definitely. Legions Imperialis is the most latest clusterfuck from Games Workshop. The first, of course, being Cursed City. I don't think this is as big a clusterfuck as Cursed City, but this is pretty darn close. This is like Cursed City was like, oh, this is a really cool game and a cool concept with cool minis, but they just botched the entire release. This is more like they botched the release of something that should just be a surefire hit. And then when it finally comes out, everybody's like, yeah, this is a lot. They cost so much. It's so many rules. It's like,
isn't it still selling really well? I don't actually know.
I mean, it probably is. I just think a lot of people are going to realize that it is a bad, like long-term game to play. Let's be honest. How many people are actually going to play the game?
Nobody
plays the games. I'm sorry, I forgot.
Is it fun to collect and play? Like, is it fun to collect, and is the game good enough to keep your attention the possibly 2 times a year you play it? That's what it is.
Yeah. Let's cycle back to Old World because I want to talk about the psych rules. We finally figured out what was going on with the break tests.
Yes.
Yeah. So the break test. So I'm justified in saying I was right. Is that if you pass leadership on a break test, you're good. You give ground. I don't remember what give ground is, but I think it's just you back up a little bit, like in Lord of the Rings, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay. And then
apparently like 3rd edition fantasy or something.
Maybe. So and then you have. If you fail your leadership, but it's still underneath your leadership, your unmodified leadership, you fall back in good order. And then, but if you get a natural roll that's higher than the leadership, you break and flee.
Yes, higher than natural. That makes you
Higher
run.
than natural. So that's kind of cool. I like that concept a little bit better.
Yes, it's very good. It means you're less likely to like immediately lose on break tests, which is good.
It's especially good because they've modified fear and terror a little bit, correct?
Yes. Well, I guess I shouldn't say, because I don't know what the most up-to-date versions of those were.
Yeah, but in order to charge a unit that has fear, you only, if they are bigger than you have to take a leadership test. If they're not, you don't.
Yes.
So
if you have lower unit strength, you want to charge a fear-causing unit, you have to take a leadership test, or your charge fails.
Yes.
And if you're in combat with them, you have to take a leadership test per round, or you take -1 to hit.
Yes, which is, I think, pretty cool. I think that is an interesting, because of course it's like the unit's going to be bigger than you because everybody's going to take a massive 30-man unit of Skellybones.
Yeah.
Because why not? They're Skellybones. However, are vampire counts no, vampire counts aren't in the new one, so it's just Tomb Kings you're going up against.
Yes, it's specifically just Tomb Kings for
and Tomb
now.
Kings can't raise the dead, right?
They cannot. So I don't know if they're going to change anything, but the way the Tomb Kings worked is you couldn't create new units or go over the starting strength of your unit, but you could recover really well.
I remembered something like that.
That's like their resurrection is better than vampire counts, but you can't go over. So like, example, like if vampire counts got a spell that was like 46 skeletons, that's fucking broken, because like they could just like fire out units of 46 skeletons left and right, and like there'd be nothing stopping you from taking like a really minimum sized unit and just making it gigantic with spells. With Tomb Kings, that wouldn't matter, because the res only matters when you have dead models. So
what about the Riz?
The Rizzler, it returns.
What about the Wiz?
He's the Wiz, and nobody beats him.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm liking the psych rules so far. I'm liking everything that they're showing us so far. It looks like every change that they made is good. Now I wanted people to be clear that when I talk about Legions Imperialis rules being bloated, I'm not talking about the same type of thing for Old World being bloated. Old World is going to be a main game. It's not going to be a side game, like a specialist game. So those rules can be bigger. Like 30K got bigger rule sets. AOS, all of those have bigger rule sets. That's what this is. Legions Imperialis is a side game. Legions Imperialis should be the game that you're like, I'm kind of done playing 40K today, or I'm kind of burnt out on 40K. Maybe I'll play this little specialist game for a little bit just to kind of cleanse the palate. That should be a fun, quick rule set, not I'm recreating World War II Stalingrad.
I mean, I guess they're trying to make it a main game. I don't know. I have no idea what their goals are. Their goals are beyond my understanding.
This is beyond science. Yeah. Actually, as we're talking right now, the Black Library preview is going on right now, so we can learn all about the books that all their newest memes are gonna come from.
Oh,
yes. Actually, what I did want to talk about is something a little off, askew from Games Workshop for a change, but it's still in our wheelhouse. It's Call of Cthulhu.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking at their newest book, which is Alone Against the Static, which I thought was pretty interesting. It's a 90s game, so they're bringing back Cthulhu Now, even though Cthulhu Now is Cthulhu 30 years ago.
Yes.
But I was wondering, have you ever played any of the solo games for Call of Cthulhu?
I haven't.
No, they look like I would think, because you like the solo gameplay games.
I generally like solo games. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I was kind of thinking would be pretty interesting. I wanted to get your opinion if you had ever played any of their solo games, because I know they have a couple.
They're probably pretty decent. I don't know. I played the ones I played the most were Tunnels and Trolls. Tunnels and Trolls are the ones I played the most solo games from. I don't know. Yeah, it says this one has new solo mechanics, so we'll have to see.
Well, and also that led me down a kind of a rabbit hole. There's a game company, I think it's out of Spain, and they put out a game called Always Choose Cthulhu. Have you heard of this?
I have not. No.
All right, it's a game book collection that adapts stories by the famous writer H.P. Lovecraft into the classic first generation game books format. So basically, it looks like a choose your own adventure game, where you're going through all of the Call of Cthulhu stories.
Okay.
But they're calling it a game. So it's like Choose Your Own Adventure is a book series, but this is more like it says it's a game book. So it looks a little interesting to me. I was wondering if you had ever heard anything about it, because I know
I haven't. It sounds up my alley, but that's
because I was looking at Steve Jackson Games did a big announcement. I thought that was kind of weird because I was like, Steve Jackson Games does an announcement, what? And I was looking because it was like there's stuff that they're coming out, and I guess they're a distributor for this company. And I was like, this is really interesting. But it's not just that the books are interesting; it's the really good looking. Like, I was looking at it and I was like, wow, these are like really nice looking books. I kind of like it. I kind of wish I could get them.
I mean, if Steve Jackson's doing it, you could get them.
I know, but I mean, they're just really nice looking books. I just was like, oh, man, I really would like one of these.
Oh, you should get one.
I probably should, but I don't know. Like, it's also, they're from Spain, so you got to worry about the translation, stuff like that. So if they're just doing like Google Translate or an AI translation, it might not work out perfectly.
Yeah, we'll have to see. The machine translation is although Spain is not too bad. There's a lot of things that missed.
First edition Infinity, first edition Batman game.
First edition Infinity was fucking something else. I don't know what they. First edition Infinity was worse than Google Translate. So I don't know what they used for that translation.
They used Miguel. He's down the block. He kind of knows English a little bit from school.
I literally think that's what they did. I think they had some guy who was like, yeah, I know English.
Sí, yo comprendo inglés.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that guy, that's the guy they hired to do the translation, because that was definitely worse than Google Translate.
That would be me doing like, sí, yo hablo español.
Yo hablo español.
My favorite is one of my coworkers is from Wisconsin, and so I'm always picking on him a little bit whenever he says something like tacos.
Good old tacos.
Oh, we're gonna go out and get some tacos, and we're gonna get the hard shell kind. That you could put them in the freezer, and those hard shells last forever. And then you just put a little bit of ground beef in there, some shredded lettuce, some tomato, and a little sour cream, and of course you got to have the shredded cheddar cheese on there.
God damn it.
God, I love a taco. The only problem is that when they crumble, man, they just fall apart. But it's kind of nice because you could use it like nachos.
Yeah, you just have nachos instead,
I know I'm veering more into Chicago as I'm doing this, but definitely we're gonna eat tacos. Oh, yes. So that's my my one weird discovery. I was like, always choose Cthulhu. It's a terrible name for the game because it just makes me feel like it's a old 1990s choose your own adventure. Where it's like, always choose Cthulhu and the case of the pirate's treasure.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but yeah, it's not the worst. It could be
let me see. I'm gonna translate it into Espanol and see what it's called. See if it's better. Oh, it's just called Choose Cthulhu.
Oh, well, that's probably a little bit better.
Colección Choose Cthulhu Edición Deluxe.
Yeah, it says Cthulhu Mythos in first person. Yeah, that looks pretty cool.
And that's what I figured that'd be up your alley with the single player and with the single player game.
Yeah, I'm down. I'll check it out. It looks up my alley for sure.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it'll be a Christmas present to yourself.
The first book in the store is Advanced Choose Cthulhu.
Say it in Spanish.
Escape de Rile.
Escape de Rile.
And it's written by Edward T. Riker, which, I mean,
Edward T. Riker. Is that another Riker clone?
Apparently.
You got Will Riker. You got what was the first clone?
Thomas Riker.
Thomas Riker, and now you got Edward Riker.
Yep.
La Llamada de Cthulhu Edición Vintage. Yes. I don't know why I turned French there too. I should just get these in Spanish and just learn my Spanish through them.
Do you ever think about how the fact that our Riker is the clone?
Yes, I've often thought about that one. That Thomas Riker is technically the original Riker.
Yeah, Thomas Riker is technically the original Riker. Like, you can't say real Riker because they're both real.
Yes.
But he is the original Riker, which is so weird to think about. It's just like, oh, this character that we know is not the character that we know.
He is.
Cool.
He technically is.
Yeah, it's just kind of cool.
You could say that about anybody who's gone through the transporter process, that they're not technically the original person that we've seen.
Well, I don't mean in a Ship of Theseus way. I mean, like, if you were to say, like, the Riker.
No. I know what you're saying.
Okay, yeah.
But it's like you. So my thing is that when you go through the transporter, it's not like you're becoming a separate and a new person. Kind of like, because that was always the theory with the transporter, was that when you go through the transporter, you're not the original person anymore. You're a copy of them that is identical, right? Like a Xerox copy. So it would be like a Xerox. So it would be like if a fax machine, when they faxed over the piece of paper no longer existed, right? On my end. So if I fax it, the piece of paper no longer existed, but it would show up on the other end, though it's technically the same piece of paper and the original no longer exists, right?
Right.
However, so in the transporter, wait, going back to what I was saying, I got myself into a loop.
You're in a Star Trek jargon loop.
I'm in a jargon loop. So Thomas and William are technically the exact same person, just with different experiences with the same divergence point.
Yes.
So but yes, you are correct in that Thomas is probably the more close to the original one. Yes. So let's say that you go through a transporter. Every time you go through a transporter, you are 0.9999999 exactly the same. Maybe there's like an atom missing or something missing, right? So hypothetically, after enough transporter uses, your body would not be the same. It'd be only like 0.9999998 the same. So you could hypothetically say that Thomas Riker is the more correct Riker, but that's an argument. I also did like how on Deep Space Nine and Voyager they said we will never be using Thomas Riker ever again.
Yes. Well, what's his name? Brandon Braga hates Thomas Riker.
I know, he hates it anytime anyone brings up Thomas Riker.
Yeah.
I know. I was doing some deep diving onto some Deep Space Nine stuff, and I kind of got mad thinking about the Maquis and how there was so much that could have been done with that storyline.
It could have been one of the best storylines that Star Trek's ever had. It easily could have been.
Yes, and I get so mad thinking about it. And one of the things I love about the Maquis that I wish they had explored more in Star Trek was like just how dumb the Maquis are. Like, to me, the Maquis are essentially libertarians. And it's like, on one hand, you could have luxury gay space communism, and the other hand, you could be like hard scrabble pioneers who are basically shitting in holes in the woods. And it's like, why would anybody ever take the shitting in the hole in the woods when you could have luxury gay space communism?
See, for me, my big thing is I think it's less. I'm not even going to go that far. I'm going to dial it back before you even think of like any sort of like political or economical ideas. The fact that they're so willing to go tooth and nail and like absolutely like this is our ancestral home about it, like, which would make sense if they weren't humans from the fucking Federation who have only lived on that planet for like 15 years. Like, yeah, it is an absolutely like completely irrelevant amount of time for fucking that's the thing that's infuriating about it, is because like if you wanted to have that plot line make sense, like why would you say that the Maquis were only on that planet for such a short fucking time? Like, that's the part I don't get. Like, there's 15 years. This is Star Trek. You've been on a planet for 15 years. That's nothing. People will be like, oh yeah, all right, yeah, we'll bail. We're good. Like, yeah,
like,
okay.
In Trek, I could see someone like a scientist being like, I terraformed this planet. Like, I use my science and my hard work, and this is a planet that I pretty much designed from scratch. Like that would be a Star Trek type of character,
Yeah,
right?
I could see that.
Yeah. This like these team of scientists who are like, no, we spent our lives making this planet. This is our planet.
Yeah.
Or this, this is our planet. This is our baby. Like, we're not just going to hand it over to the Cardassians. We did this.
Yeah,
like
or
I could
or
see
at
that.
least make it like the second generation. Like our parents died. Fine,
Our
terraforming
parents
this planet.
sacrificed everything to make this planet.
Yeah. Something at least like that. Like that, I could at least see like a little more. Just give them a little bit more motivation to make like how they acted like make sense.
Well, Chakotay could bring up his ancestors.
No, not that. Yeah.
What's that thing that he always said? Like when he was chanting.
Oh, I can't remember. I just the thing I remember the most was definitely when the guy their Native American consultant. Yeah, not Native American at all. Not even close.
Exactly. That was like the most racist thing ever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, they tried to do it right, but man, they did not check that guy's credentials. It was literally just like I said. It was just like the guy who wrote the first edition Infinity book, who was just like, yeah, I can speak English. It was some guy who's just like, yeah, I'm Native American. I know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm Native American.
Yeah, I'm Native American.
Where are you from? I'm from Chicago.
I'm from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. Yeah, exactly. Just like, oh God. So I think of those episodes and I just think of the pure cringe of like, it's literally like, oh, I don't know. I can't watch those episodes anymore, but my feelings on Voyager anyway. Yeah. But yeah, so, the only last gaming thing that I really wanted to bring up was I did want to bring up something else, but something that you would like is they showed the new Flesh Eater Quartz box set.
Oh, it's great. I love that box set.
Yes, they're very Steve models. I do think that they're very Stevie.
Yeah, they're at that box set's so fucking cool.
And I did want to apologize to the people who I said Middle Earth was dead, because of course Games Workshop just released Resin Kings of the Army of the Dead with its clear and see through.
Yeah, no. I mean, I still think you're correct.
I know.
It's. Oh! I see. You were making a gag.
Yes, I'm making a funny, because it's all they're doing is re-releasing old stuff again, just in a new material.
Yes. Okay. Very good. I was like, wait.
However, I will be the first to admit they're really cool looking. Like,
they are cool looking. I mean, the Lord of the Rings stuff's great. It's just pretty obviously like Embracer is not gonna let Games Workshop keep it. So
yes, very much so.
Yeah, and Embracer, then that's the thing too. Like, you can consider the Lord of the Rings IP like essentially dead, because like Embracer is the worst. Like, they are like, if you ever hear that Embracer bought your favorite thing, it's not gonna be your favorite thing much longer. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. But Steve, I got to get my Funko Pop. One last thing I wanted to talk about. Sorry, Matt. I wanted to get my Funko Pop Aragorn. The show that I like, The Lord of the Rings. How else are people in the office going to know I'm unique? So I want to talk about some novels. I'm starting one novel that I'm really enjoying. It's called Empire of Silence. It starts off really good, so I don't know. I just started it. And
is it Necrons?
No. This is actually a non-Games Workshop sci-fi book that I'm reading.
Oh shit! All right, cool.
I have been told it is the next like big, great sci-fi space opera.
That's a bold statement.
I know. So I'll give some updates when I get further along into it. It's about a guy who I guess it's like all humans in the galaxy are under attack by a let's just call them orcs, right? And so this one guy basically destroys a sun and kills the entire entire alien fleet. This happens in like the first paragraph, so it's not like a spoiler. And it's about him it's about the guy telling the story of how he became like a normal person to being this genocidal maniac. But, some people love him because he saved humanity, and some people hate him because he like committed genocide. So it sounds really interesting. And there's laser swords.
Ooh, I do like laser swords.
Yes, laser swords and spaceships. And the other book that I read, I finished up The End and the Death Part 2, the penultimate Horus Heresy book. I will say it was probably the dumbest book I've ever read in my life.
Nice.
Aside from the Sanguinius Horus fight, which was pretty good. So Steve, I want to. You probably have no idea about any of this, but in the story, they've been leading up to this idea that the Emperor is going to become a chaos god.
Ooh.
So that's kind of like this thing, like. So they're leading up. Everyone's talking about this thing called the Dark King. The Dark King. Everyone thinks it's going to be Horus is going to ascend to be a chaos god, the Dark King. But in reality, it's that the Emperor is going to be the Dark King. Now here's the issue with that, Steve, is that nowhere in the book is there any lead up to this. Right? It's not like the Emperor going like, I must make hard choices and do that. I must do this. It's the only way type thing, right?
I mean, let me pause real quick. But isn't the Emperor dead?
No, not yet. Not in the Horus Heresy. Emperor dies after Horus kills Sanguinius. So Horus kills Sanguinius, and then Emperor and Horus fight, and it basically puts him as puts him near death.
Oh, okay, very good.
Yes. Okay, so he. You would think that there'd be some build up, some lead up. So like throughout the series, like you'd see hints of the Emperor's upcoming like ascend to a chaos goddom, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, just halfway through the book, he kind of becomes a chaos god. And just randomly, it just happens. And they give an explanation of like, I have to do this to defeat Horus. And then someone says, you can't do this to defeat Horus. And the Emperor's like, okay. And he gives up the power. It's literally what fucking happens in the book. Spoilers, everybody. I apologize for that. But the book's been out for like a month now at this point.
That's pretty
but
bad.
Holy shit, was I pissed.
That's pretty bad.
Now, I could have missed something, like maybe I had fallen asleep at some point while listening to it on audiobook, and I just like missed this whole thing, but I don't think I did, Steve. I don't think I did. Dan Abnett is a very fine writer when it comes to Dakas and Bolters and Wogs. However, that man editors need to rein in writers sometimes. It happens. You can do that. You're allowed to do that as an editor, to tell a writer, no. No one has told Dan Abnett no with these books. So
yeah,
kind of it literally the last two books should have been cut down and combined into one. And I'll say my statement that I've said with many of the Horus Heresy books. It's that anytime you have humans in the book as main characters or point of view characters, the story just grinds to a halt. Because I'm not reading this book to hear about humans. I'm reading this book to see Space Marines shooting Space Marines. That's what I want. Don't give me this perspective of human bullshit. I don't care. I want to see a Space Marine with a chainsaw sword cutting into another Space Marine who has a laser sword. Does that make sense?
I agree.
I don't need this nonsense, and especially because there's so many characters, it's like you just lose track of them. Even though you've read about them in other books, it's just like, wait, I don't know who this character is. I don't know what's going on here. It's an issue I have. But aside from that, that was like my two literary things. Oh, and I started reading the last End Times book was also out on Audible, and it's boring. It's very, very boring. So I kind of stopped it to start this new.
I love that a book about the apocalypse of a fucking beloved fictional world is boring.
It's not well written, Steve. It's not well written.
That's rough.
Yeah. It's like it goes down to the fact of like Black Library is its own publishing house, right? And that means that they have to have editors in house looking at all these books. And so these aren't like these aren't like editors from Penguin Books or Houghton Mifflin or something like that. So they don't have quite the taste of a literary genius, So that's an issue. That's very much an issue.
Yeah, I can see it. Sounds like a problem. Sounds like a problem.
El horror de Dunwich. Have you seen Suitable Flesh yet?
Suitable Flesh. I have not heard of Suitable Flesh.
It's a horror movie based on H.P. Lovecraft's The Thing at the Door, and it was like Stuart Gordon's last movie that he was going to work on before he died. So the guy who did Reanimator and From Beyond and Dagon.
Yes, of course.
So Barbara Crampton, who was the main character the main female lead from the Reanimator, got this made, and it's written by like the guy who did Reanimator. It was produced by the guy who produced Reanimator and all those movies. It was just directed by Joe Lynch, and I have yet to see it, and I kind of really want to see it.
It has a lot of praise.
Yeah, it's unavailable currently at the moment, so that's what's bothering me.
It looks like you can rent it for $6 on Amazon.
I don't rent movies on Amazon. I pay money to Amazon so I can watch stuff on there. I don't need to pay more money for that. How about that?
You could pay $7 to rent it on YouTube.
Ooh, on YouTube.
On YouTube.
That's even worse.
Hey, sometimes YouTube has free movies. I watched Big Trouble in Little China the other day. I was like, oh, hey, why is this movie here? It's free. I will watch it.
Mm-hmm. Or I usually watch my free stuff through Tubi or Vudu.
Yeah. I like Tubi a lot, actually. It looks like the I mean, if you care for the Rotten Tomatoes score, it seems pretty solid. 85% for critics.
Oh yeah, it's
audience. So
it's supposedly really good. So that's what I'm kind of excited about. I
also have to throw the horror arc in there because it's a horror movie. That means that this movie is probably very, very good.
That could very well be, yeah.
But because I find there's still to this day a anti-horror film bias on all reviewers.
I would have said that let's take it back 10 years when
unless it's made by A24.
Yeah, like when print journalism was real, like people have issues with horror movies. However, no one cares about print journalism anymore, so most of these Rotten Tomato scores are coming from online sources anyway, and most online sources, if you're going to review a horror movie, are going to give a very honest review of the horror movie and not have a bias against it.
Yeah. There's actually a Spanish horror movie I want to see called Everyone Will Burn. It looks really good. Yeah, it looks really fucking good.
I don't know the Spanish word for burn.
Burno.
Burnamos.
Combusto.
Combustamos. Everybody burns.
There you go. Combustamos. Combustamos. It looks good. It looks really good. But obviously it's a fucking Spanish movie, so like I don't know where the fuck I can watch it.
I don't know, but maybe you could watch that and read the Spanish Cthulhu books at the same time.
Oh,
I know
nice.
you're more on the Japanese, but
hi, so this.
And what was I watched Sisu, which I recommend. Sisu is the one where it's
that's the farmer who just kills Nazis, right?
Well, it's a gold. He's a prospector.
Ah, that's right. Okay.
So he's this Finnish prospector who fought against the communists in the Winter War, and fought alongside the Nazis. I'm just going to be saying that. I mean, I know the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but you're on the side of the Nazis. Let's just be honest here. But anyway, the Nazis are retreating from Finland because of politics. And then so they come across this guy who finds a bunch of gold and they want to steal his gold. So he just kills every single Nazi, and it's pretty amazing. Very Tarantino-esque.
Okay.
I recommend it. Yeah.
I'm down.
So, yes, it definitely a fun watch. And it's like one of those ones where the main character doesn't talk, but it's cool. Not like the Nick Cage movie.
What? That movie was awesome. You're talking about Willy's Wonderland?
Oh my God, Willy's Wonderland. I remember saying on the podcast.
Wonderland.
It was such a disappointment. It was not good.
Oh, I loved Willy's Wonderland. I thought it was great.
It made no sense, and everything looks so bad.
Yeah, that's why it was great. Although I don't know, I've heard, so I cannot get an accurate read on if I'm going to go with my gut and say the Five Nights at Freddy's movie is dog shit. But I cannot get an accurate
read on it.
Because there's too many people who just like Five Nights at Freddy's, so they're gonna like it no matter what.
Oh, that's true. I look at it as more of, well, okay, so that's an interesting thing, because you know that since there's a lot of people who like Five Nights at Freddy's, they like it. So that goes to show that it's not against the Five Nights at Freddy's like story or brand, so to speak.
Right, exactly. So I mean, that's good for people who like Five Nights at Freddy's, but like, do I like Five Nights at Freddy's? I don't know.
I mean, I have no issues with Five Nights at Freddy's. I think anybody who's looking for the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's is
that's my question.
Really needs to get out and read a book.
That's my question. Is like I have like, you know, the vague bits of lore that I've gleaned from watching Let's Plays of the Five Nights at Freddy's games, and like they seem innocuous. They're fine. Like, the first game's entertaining enough, but whatever. That question, my question is now, like, do I think the lore is good enough to hold up to a movie? I don't know.
I don't know.
I do not know. I do know that I just watched a video on an old game called Vangers. Vangers. It might be Vangers. I don't know how to. It's a fucking Russian game, so I don't know how you're supposed to say it. But it's Vangers.
Vodka. Eats vodka.
But it is like, so the game looks fine, but the game world is like fucking crazy and super interesting, and I really like the concept of the game world. So it's a sci-fi, it's a super sci-fi setting, and the long and short is, like, humans figured out a way to travel interdimensionally, and eventually, like, there's nothing alive. We encounter nothing alive, and then we get to a point where we find that there are this alien race. And they're basically like bugs, like giant bugs for all intents and purposes. Like there's giant caterpillars. I think they're sentient, so they're not like the brain bugs in Starship Troopers. They're individuals, and of course we immediately go to war with them.
Yay!
Because we're humans. And then it turns in the surprise twist. We accidentally did a good, which I thought was great, because they're the reason there are so many different types of bugs is because they're an actual, like, dominating, conquering species, kind of like the Tyranids.
Okay.
So, like, we accidentally a good guide ourselves. And which I thought was really funny. I think that's a good twist. Like, humans did not do it for altruistic reasons, but suddenly it's like, oh, actually we are good guys. They're villainous. But one of the sides creates a bioweapon, and they don't reveal which side it is. And the bioweapon is so deadly and so severe, both sides cut off their teleportation to the main planet where Vangers takes place. And the bioweapon evolves and doesn't kill anyone anymore, but creates this weird new hybrid race that exists of half human, half insect aliens.
Whoa,
So everyone is this weird half human, half insect hybrid thing. And this setting is the fucking background, and I kid you not, of a fucking top-down racing game.
You had me at the first part, Steve. You had me at the first part.
I am glad that I got you. It is literally a top-down racing game.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say, like, that's an interesting concept for, like, a novel, but I'm sure may have been explored before in something or other. It sounds kind of familiar. Of like, so there's like a galactic federation, right? Of planets that are being under attack by an overwhelming enemy, and this enemy just happens to fall into like the Earth's backyard.
Yes,
and Earth is not part of the Federation or anything like that. We're just like people are staying, like, they consider us backwater, kind of. However, because of Earth's ingenuity and the fact of, like, we're not going to let some aliens take over us, we wipe out this part of the invasion fleet, and then we're like, you know what? We're going to go hunt these motherfuckers down. And so we take our essentially flying brick ships that are nothing but, like, guns with engines like strapped to it, and just start destroying these enemies. And the Federation is like, what the fuck is going on? This hyper advanced, we got teleportation, we got replicators, we are a post-scarcity federation of planets, but yet here comes this, these hairless monkeys flying around on a strapped to a gun on a rocket, destroying these bad guys.
I love it.
And then they're like, can we do anything to help you guys out? Like, do you have bigger guns?
Do you have more guns?
Do you have guns? We need guns. I would like that idea. And then it's like the end of the series is basically this Federation trying to figure out what to do with Earth. Like this like, yeah, they saved us all, but can we trust the naked hair? Can we trust the hairless apes with our technology?
Yeah, it's like, can we trust the barbarians who absolutely wiped the floor with this species that was killing us all?
They seem friendly enough, but yet I'm afraid they're going to take our replicator and turn it into a weapon.
I like it.
I think I might write this book myself. All right. Do we have any other gaming stuff to talk about?
Nah, I'm good.
All right, so go to the Game Classy Facebook page. It's the best way to find the link to the Game Classy Discord, where we're most active. Yeah, And I just posted my 3D printed ornament that I'm giving out today to my what's it called, White Elephant gift. It is Hans Gruber falling from the Nakatomi Plaza,
Nice.
and written on there is "Merry Christmas," but Die Hard opened on July 22nd, 1988. Just to let people know, it's a dig at Pat B, because Pat B puts up his Christmas lights 2 days before Thanksgiving. And I yell at him. I'm like, you don't put your stuff up together 2 days before Thanksgiving. We have, you got to give proper time to the season, right? He's like, oh, but you got to worry about the weather. No, you don't got to worry about the weather. Like if you're putting up that much lights that you're worrying about the weather, you're doing it wrong.
Talking about the weather.
Yeah. And so I posted a picture that I was watching Die Hard. He goes, oh, a little early for a Christmas movie. And I said, Die Hard's not a Christmas movie. It's not. No, it opened in July. So.
Yeah, I think I've decided. I think I'm going to agree with. I think I'm going to actually go hardline about that, and now be like, Christmas movies must have opened in the Christmas season.
Yeah, let's go for that.
That's what I'm going for now.
Just like how what's it called? Hocus Pocus is not a Halloween movie because it opened up in June.
There you go.
Yeah. So we could go ahead and take the game classy stance. We are no longer dealing with this nonsense. It has to have opened up in the Christmas season.
If for it to be a holiday film, it must have opened up in or around that holiday season. I would even allow like a late November opening for a Christmas movie. That's fine.
Yeah, well, I would say that the Thanksgiving weekend is kind of like,
yeah,
that's the time when you'd watch a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Like that's the leeway. But
the Lord of the Rings movies, I believe, are all Christmas movies, correct? Didn't they all open up around November-ish? Or am I just imagining that?
I don't actually know. Oh no, they were all Christmas movies. They were all released in December.
See, I knew they were released around that time. All right, so Lord of the Rings Christmas movies.
There you go.
Die Hard, not a Christmas movie.
See, we got it. Yes, that's even better. Every movie that opened in December is a Christmas movie.
The only true Christmas movie is Christmas with the Cranks. I've said it there.
Oh, Christmas with the Cranks, huh?
That's the worst movie ever.
That's your thing. I mean, I've never seen Christmas with the Cranks, but I will. There's no shot it's the worst movie ever.
No, it's not the worst movie ever. No, that goes to Thor, the first Thor movie.
I mean, the first Thor movie is pretty bad, but worst ever? I mean,
in my opinion, it is.
Worst ever is that is a moniker.
It's a bold term.
It is.
All right.
I was able to sit through it. Like I have to say, if I was able to sit through the film, it can't be the worst ever.
All right. And then you could also, the best way you can talk about the podcast, like, comment, subscribe on the YouTubes, like, comment, subscribe on the iTunes. If you want to follow more of me, you could follow me at GameClassyJoe on Instagram, and you can follow Steve at Command Throw on Blue Sky.
Blue Sky, yes.
Dun, dun, dun. I'm not on the Blue Sky.
There ain't a cloud inside.
Evil one. All right, so Steve, until next time.
I recommend watching King of the Hill again because it is a lot better than I remember.
Adios.
Later.
Game Classy.